when a loved one dies and they end up in the morgue. Everybody assumes that the system is going to provide you with that information, and it didn't happen.
The mother in Mississippi searching for her missing son, only to learn that he had been struck and killed by a police car, and no one had told her for nearly 6 months.
And not only did it not happen in Hinds County, but we're now learning through more reporting that this is not specific to Hinds County. It happens around the country. It feels so sacred, and this sacred relationship has been broken. Hi, my name is Jon Schuppe. I'm a staff writer at NBC News Digital, and we're going to talk about how to build trust with sources. I've been working for 4 or 5 months now on a series called Lost Rights for NBCnews.com that chronicles how governments have failed to tell families about the deaths of their loved ones, and also have allowed their bodies to go unclaimed in morgues without their families knowing, and then subsequently putting those bodies in paupers' graves or having them cremated without their families knowing. So the story begins with a relationship that I had with a woman in Jackson, Mississippi. Her name was Dexter Wade. I had written about her brother getting killed by Jackson police. And a month after that story ran, she called me with her story about what had happened to her son. He had been killed. She had reported him missing, not knowing he was killed, and she didn't learn the truth of what had happened to him for months later. Public records were a foundation to this whole reporting. Of course, source development was arguably the most important, but a close second to that was the public records. These are documents I received from public records requests that I made to the Hinds County Coroner's Office, just documenting how the investigators showed up at the scene, what they found at the scene, and what they found on Dexter Wade's body. Also in this case, I got from my public records requests the Coroner's Office investigators' case notes, and then the dates in which he called the police department saying, hey, have you notified next of kin yet? No response. Hey, calling again. What about next of kin? No response. We were actually able to take some of these dates and juxtapose them with his mother, Dexter Wade's attempts to find him on Facebook, and kind of show while she was looking for him, they weren't doing anything. Over the course of weeks, we had built up enough of a relationship with her that I felt comfortable saying to her, what are your plans for when you want to visit Dexter's grave, wherever that may be? And as she didn't know initially, but when she got to the point where she felt comfortable thinking emotionally about what she wanted to do in that regard, I asked her, do you mind if I come along? And by then we had built up enough of a relationship where I believe she felt comfortable with me. And when I asked her if I could stick around, fly down, spend the day with her as she went through this process, she did not hesitate and agreed. There's a few things that come to mind that reporters should know when they're approaching a sensitive subject like this. Ordinary people who, number one, don't have any experience dealing with reporters, and number two, are going through something very traumatic at the same time. One is to listen, to really listen, and to not come across as somebody who is there to extract information from somebody, but you're building a relationship with someone, and the first part of that is to listen. Being transparent. This is who I am. This is the type of work that I do. This is the type of story that I believe is happening here. Be very explicit about what it is that I do and what the process is like and what the end product might look like. Never surprise anybody with anything that you're doing. Trust isn't built overnight. That over time pushes a relationship along where you have this reporter-source relationship, and it's a very personal relationship. They're clear that you're a reporter and you're there to document what happened to them, but they're also understanding that you are there to give them a voice and to listen to them and ideally give their voice to the rest of the world, the readership of the article. Keeping that relationship alive and staying in touch is constant communication. I approach situations like this, frequent texts, frequent phone calls, checking in on people, and it's not just asking for information or what's up or what are you going to do next, but just like, how are you? I'm thinking about you. I want you to know that you're still important to me and I'm interested in what's happening to you. And if you're comfortable with it, and I always give people an out, if you're comfortable with it, I'd like to keep in touch and see what happens next in your journey. And people really respond to that. We get into journalism to hold the government to account when they've made mistakes, and we get into journalism because we want to help people.
We're standing here today because a journalist had some courage to break a story. Jon, thank you.
Stand up, Jon. Give him a big hand. Jon is the one that made this happen. The real journalist.
This is an example of why we all get into journalism. And this hit all those notes, this series, these stories that we've told, and it's been gratifying because each of the families that we've written about have told us in a deep and emotional way of how much it meant to them to be heard and to be given a voice when they were being ignored. And that has been the most important takeaway for me in this experience. Is it really returns me to why I became a journalist in the first place.